Good afternoon. We apologize for the slightly later start than normal, but on behalf of the Board of Directors for the City Club of Idaho Falls, I welcome you to our program today. I wish to begin by expressing gratitude for our City Club sponsors. Their generosity makes interesting programs possible throughout the year. Those sponsors would include INL, the Bank of Idaho, Fluor Idaho, ISU, the Idaho Humanities Council, Mountain View Hospital, and KISU-FM. And a special thank you goes out to our hosts, IE Productions. They match technology with finely tuned camera work, and our subjects, they make our subjects appear smarter, younger, thinner, and you get the picture. And that's just it. You get the picture. You get this picture of all that's happening in City Club because of IE Productions, and we're thankful for that. These organizations not only sustain City Club, but they also permit us to fulfill City Club's ever-important mission of sponsoring and promoting civil dialogue and discourse on all matters of public interest. And those of you who are in City Club know that we strive to do these things in a nonpartisan and a non-sectarian manner, while at the same time encouraging very broad community participation. So before I announce today's program, I wish to make sure that our next program is also on your calendars. The City Club is proud to announce that on April 29th, our own Congressman Simpson, Mike Simpson, will be discussing his sweeping proposal to consider the deeply integrated ecosystem of power generation, agricultural productivity, transportation networks, tribal interests, and environmental and wildlife concerns that exist in the Northwest. As constituents from Congressman Simpson's home district, this program it promises to provide us with that excellent access that Idaho is famous for when it comes to elected officials. City Club will allow this terrific platform from which to ask our questions, learn what he's thinking, figure out and find out what his goals are and where this conversation that he started is heading. So put that on your calendars, April 29th at noon. So today, our program also offers us some incredible access, as we are going to hear from Marlene Tromp, president of Boise State University. After a brief introduction, I'm going to turn the time over to President Tromp for her remarks. Additionally, as is our custom here at City Club, we invite you, the members of our audience, to submit your questions for Ms. Tromp in the Facebook chat. I will then do my very best to incorporate them into the time we will have for Q&A after her remarks. So don't be shy. Not quite 2 years ago, in July 2019, Dr. Marlene Tromp became only the 7th president of Boise State University. She is, in fact, BSU's first female president. She arrived from UC Santa Cruz, where she served as both the campus provost and the executive vice chancellor. Prior to that, she was vice provost in Arizona State University's West Campus in the greater Phoenix metropolitan area. I myself have been to both of these campuses, but did spend some time doing research of my own at the ASU West Campus, and I know what a spacious and gracious space that was. She also served as dean of ASU's new College of Interdisciplinary Arts and Sciences. Her career at ASU highlights her talent for understanding that a university is not merely a place for teaching or research or the granting of degrees. And at ASU, Tromp expanded campus offerings for faculty mentoring, cybersecurity, and interdisciplinary forensics. She led a campus-wide effort to fight sexual assault. At UCSC, she spearheaded both a new strategic academic plan, which is no easy feat, I'm sure, and she pursued other programs aimed at developing faculty and staff capacity. Indeed, on the BSU campus, almost from the moment she arrived, President Tromp has been working to increase student access to the campus and to higher education itself, as she has initiated programs like the Presidential True Blue Scholarship, the Community Impact Program, Hometown Challenge, Institute for Pervasive Cybersecurity, and the Bronco Gap Year, and others. In fact, Madam President, it appears that outreach and special programs are among the tools you believe in, and you believe in investing in them when it comes to managing a campus. We hope you will be able to tell us more about these and other ways you have helped students access higher education. Marlene Tromp is no stranger to the Intermountain West. She is from Green River, Wyoming, a city nestled in the Wind Mountain Range, one of the oldest ranges to make up the Rocky Mountains. Her parents were not college graduates, and her father was a trona miner. Trona was something I had to look up. It is an ore, a sodium carbonate compound that's processed into soda ash, or baking soda as we know it, and it's used in everything from household cleaning products to glass making. President Trump earned a BA in English from Creighton University in Omaha, Nebraska. She earned an MA in Wyoming and a PhD from the University of Florida. Her dissertation focused on Victorian novels and compared them to the new laws being written at that time on domestic violence. This unique inquiry led not only to a book, but also a whole series of books and articles exploring cultural issues of the 19th century life and literature, as well as a stint as president of the North American Victorian Studies Association. Given this fascinating expertise of extracting culture from history, I have to wonder what meaning your academic successors will extract from our particular moment in what we hope will soon be a post-pandemic history. What new cultural norms are we giving rise to? I have to wonder. I found myself pondering this and thought that it was both fascinating and maybe a little bewildering. Some days I don't feel like we're putting forth our cultural best foot. Anyway, tell us, President Trump, do you ever have the urge to open up your proverbial window and call out, we can do better than this, people? Because if we're making history right now, we definitely want to put our best foot forward. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to you, President. And when when your formal remarks conclude, I'll be back to ask questions. So we look forward to hearing what you have to say. The time is yours.
Thank you so much, Mayor Casper. It's an incredibly gracious, generous, and thoughtful introduction that really does take in the scope of my life, from Green River, Wyoming and trona mining up to my doctoral research and my books. Thank you so much. Well, I'm delighted to be here today. Thank you so much for the invitation. I had the good fortune to visit Idaho Falls when I did a tour of the state when I first arrived, and I actually went back again in the summer. I thought it was so beautiful. I didn't want to miss out, and I took in some kayaking on the river there. It's so beautiful, and I'm really delighted to get a chance to talk with you today. I'm going to run through a slide deck and talk about some of the programs that Mayor Casper has mentioned to you, and then I look forward to your questions. So if I may have the first slide, please, strategic plan. We've just, as a university, launched a new strategic planning process, and our strategic plan will be awaiting approval by the board at the next board meeting. And we're focusing on several areas that I think are a number of the things you've heard about already from Mayor Casper today. We want to improve educational access and student success. That's our number one priority, to get students access to the university and all the things that it has to offer, the education that it has to offer, and to ensure that they are successful when they are here. To innovate for institutional impact. And I'm very, very proud of what Boise State calls blue turf thinking. We are an organization that has been known since its founding for innovation and innovation during periods of hardship. We want to advance research and creative activity, and that's in part because what we know from research that's been done out there is that when students have access to active research, it changes how they understand their leadership, their learning, the world around them. It makes them better prepared to be out in the marketplace of ideas and in the marketplace of work. That will foster a thriving community. We want Boise State to be one of the best places to work in the entire state and the entire region. And that will trailblaze new programs and partnerships, because for us, those partnerships with communities and businesses and people are the things that really matter to advance the university. So that's how we're mapping our path forward at this time. Next slide, please, Cole. I'm very proud that we serve more than 33,000 students every year. That's extraordinary. The number of students that become Broncos or are impacted by the experience of being a part of Bronco Nation is just huge. In 19 and 20, we saw 4,762 graduates. That number this May will have us top 100,000 living graduates, most of whom are in the Treasure Valley or in the rest of the state of Idaho. And so I'll share some more data with you on that momentarily. Since 2012, our enrollment has gone up over 26%. And what that means is that just as Idaho has become a state that's attractive to people around the country for its natural beauty, for the way people think and live here, I've been so delighted by the outdoor life that I missed in a lot of the other places that I've lived since I grew up in Wyoming. That lifestyle, the quality of life here is something that attracts people here. And as people come to the state of Idaho, we've seen an extraordinary increase in the access of educational services at Boise State University. And Boise State confers more than half of all bachelor's degrees from public institutions in the entire state of Idaho every single year. Next slide, please, Cole. I'm really proud, too, of the kinds of special efforts and special projects we've engaged in this year that Mayor Casper alluded to. First of all, I want to note that we've had a record-breaking year in research. 58 million in research awards. That's new money that comes into this state for path-breaking research on water quality, on nanotechnologies to help with healthcare and to help with cybersecurity. That's a 41% increase in the last 5 years. That means our faculty are really working to create new knowledge that impacts you, our students, and the state. I'm very proud that we hosted an event called Project Launchpad this year. When universities all across the country closed their doors during the pandemic, our institutions in the state of Idaho made the decision to remain open, but to do so safely. And so we hosted a summit that was a national summit that brought together over 700 leaders from all around the country in higher education to learn from folks here at Boise State and a few other national universities about what the best practices were to help keep our students on track during this difficult time. We know that for a lot of families and for a lot of students, there were hardships. Sometimes those were economic hardships. People faced special economic challenges in the wake of the pandemic beginning. Sometimes they were personal or familial. Someone had to take care of a family member. Sometimes it just made it difficult with all the other challenges that were in place for people to pursue their education. And we didn't want students to fall behind. So Project Launchpad was a national effort housed right out of Boise State University to help people access resources and advance our students. We also created a program called Bronco Gap Year. We are in the process right now of essentially franchising this program out around the country because it was so incredibly successful. We built the program to support those students. You know, as you probably know, high school students who were seniors when the pandemic began and those who were seniors this year often were disconnected from the resources that would ordinarily have helped them pursue that higher education dream. And what that meant was folks didn't have the guidance counselor or the faculty member that they usually spoke with. They didn't have the kinds of folks around them who would be able to advise and support them in the process. We built Bronco Gap Year with just those students in mind. We wanted to ensure that young people who didn't have access to those resources could still access the university for one low cost. So for a mere $1,200 a year, a student could reach out to the university, participate in Bronco Gap Year without going through the entire application process, get a dedicated faculty mentor from Boise State, a trained and dedicated mentor who would help them assess their career goals, their areas that they might want to study in higher ed so they can make the most efficient use of their time, their pathway to that university degree. It was so successful that every student that began in that program is coming to school in the fall, whether that's to Boise State or someplace else. And we're very proud of its efficacy and effect. It helped maintain students' career path through their higher education experience. We're actually creating another layer of this program now because what we discovered, we thought we were building it for high school students, but we discovered that a number of our own current students face challenges this year. And the Bronco Gap Year program gave them the opportunity to take a year and be at home and help their family or work in a family business or on the family ranch during difficult times, and to have the opportunity to stay in school and keep on track with their degrees. So we're building a new program now called Bronco Leap Year that will allow students who need to take some time off school to stay on track. We also built a program called the Community Impact Program. It's a rural initiative that grew out of my own desire growing up in a small town in Wyoming. When I first moved here, people always described it as a small town. And I thought, how can you call Green River a small town? We were 4A. When I was a kid, we had 7,000 people in that town. And that seemed like an awful lot to me. A small town seemed like 100 to me. But what we wanted to do was ensure that all the talented people we have around the state who for personal or professional reasons can't leave their hometown still have the opportunity to pursue that higher education and to advance their own lives and the lives of the people in their families. So what this program did is it went to Payette, Mountain Home, and McCall. That's where we did our pilot year. And we went to those communities and we said, what kind of curriculum do you need? What would best suit your community and help your community really thrive? And we built those programs to spec for those communities. And we sent faculty out, and this is what's key. This is what's different from a simply online program. We sent those faculty out to interact face-to-face with the students, even during the pandemic, socially distanced and masked, following all the rules in each community, but so that the students actually had a chance to know those faculty members and the faculty members had a chance to know the students. Because for many people, there's a barrier that they have to surmount. If it's a little bit like, I liken it to someone calling a call center when they have a problem with a big order that they've made. You're going to be interacting with someone that you've never met, never seen, who doesn't know you, you don't know them. And that can be a barrier to getting something right. Now, if you're working with a business and you get a big order wrong and you know the person who's the manager or the salesperson or the owner, your interaction with them, the quality of that interaction is entirely different. I built a program like this when I was at Arizona State, and we had incredible success with that program. In a community where we had about a 4% graduation rate of students, we went up to an 89% graduation rate. And 50% of those students went on to pursue a master's degree in the same kind of program. So we know we made an incredible difference in this community. And we have seen incredible retention in this program, the Community Impact Program, this year. We also increased the amount of the endowment for scholarships for Idaho students. So the President's True Blue Scholarship is dedicated to Idaho students. And I launched an endowment effort for that and raised $500,000 in this year alone to ensure that students would have access to an Idaho education. Finally, as you heard Mayor Casper say, we launched the Institute for Pervasive Cybersecurity. And what's really exciting about that institute is it's going to give students real life experience working for real businesses to help defend those businesses against cybersecurity threats. So it has a live action interaction component, and it will partner businesses with the university to ensure that students get the best opportunity to make their impact in the world. Next slide, please. I'm very, very proud that during the pandemic, when teachers all over the state sent up a hue and cry, our K-12 teachers haven't been prepared to teach online as many university teachers have. So at Boise State University, we have a long history of teaching online. We were one of the early adopters of online education. But in the K-12 arena, that has not been a way in which teachers have delivered education. So we reached out across the state and we delivered 73,000 hours of training with over 2,500 teachers to help them be better prepared to deal with remote learning and to better deliver education to our children across the state. We worked with faculty to help them thrive in that environment and to understand what the research shows about best practices and success in the classroom. We moved into a rural study area and spent 5,000 hours with teachers and fellows at rural study sites to ensure that they were ready so that those students were as well served as students who were living in urban communities. And to me, that's a big part of what the service of a university is about. May I have the next slide, Cole? I'm also very proud of the kinds of tech innovations that we've launched at Boise State University. We have newly approved degrees in cyber operations and resilience, a bachelor's, a master's, and 3 graduate certificates in that area. We've been nationally ranked in our computer science program. We're the highest ranking in the state of Idaho. We've created a new certificate, an undergraduate certificate called Cyber for All, that allows a student studying in any area, any discipline, to add cybersecurity to their degree so that they're better prepared if they're a business owner, if they're working for a business, if they want to be a part of the cybersecurity industry so that they're better prepared to do so. And what's really exciting about that is the person who I brought in to launch our Institute for Pervasive Cybersecurity is a cybersecurity professional who owned and ran the largest cybersecurity firm in the entire Western United States. Now he's an employee of Boise State University. And he himself had a degree in history. And his wife, who was his partner in the endeavor, had a degree in sociology. And what they recognize is that students from across the academic spectrum are going to see different kinds of potential cyber threats than students who are only trained in computer science. So I wanted someone who really understood the way in which we could touch an entire university and make an impact across the region, the state, and the world with cybersecurity. And I think Idaho has a special opportunity with the Idaho National Lab and its focus on cybersecurity. Idaho can be where the nation and the world turns for cybersecurity. And one of the reasons this especially resonates for me is as we watch small towns shrink in size around the country and people move into urban areas, what we know is that we're losing the gift of those rural communities and the kinds of things they teach people growing up. And we see those communities lose first maybe their medical services and then maybe their shopping services, but they lose services over time. And then it comes to be only the elderly who live there and they lack the services they need to have a wonderful and prosperous life. Cybersecurity is an industry that allows people to stay in their hometown and earn an incredible living and give back to their communities. So it's a high-paying career that can be done from anywhere that will allow our small towns to continue to thrive. We also were awarded a grant across the state to help with Idaho election cybersecurity this year. So we had some of the most secure elections in the country. Next slide, please. I'm also really proud of our bioengineering core and the kind of funding that we've gotten that's federal funding to help support those efforts. We're doing cutting edge research and we're creating a new program called BUILD that operates within the Western Dairy Center at Utah State to ensure that folks who are working in those industries here in the state of Idaho have the cutting edge top technology and information they need to run their industry efficiently and effectively. We also have a program called GIM. It's run out of our College of Innovation and Design, Games, Interactive Media, and Mobile, that prepares students for the world of mobile apps, virtual reality. Those students get hired into places like Apple and Google when they graduate. And we know that those are students who are coming thinking about Idaho and how they can make a positive impact in the future of Idaho as well. Next slide, please. I'm also really proud, finally, to say that we are one of the most efficient educations with one of the greatest ROIs in the state of Idaho. The cost of educating a student at Boise State is 42% less than the national average. And for every dollar the state invests in Boise State, there's an $8 return on that investment to the state and to the community. As I mentioned, we have nearly 100,000 living graduates. We'll exceed that mark this May. And our top employers are some of the biggest industries across the state of Idaho. We are committed to creating career building skills as a part of their educational experience, which means we're creating experiential learning opportunities, career services incentives, service learning opportunities for our students to go out and do good work in the state and the region while they're learning, and a finishing foundations program that requires our faculty to ask students to reflect and prepare for their career and their future. So I'm really proud of all that Boise State is doing, and I'm really eager to learn from you and to hear your questions. Thank you, Mayor Casper.
Thank you so much. You've given us a very good look at the broad array of offerings that are there to help students succeed at BSU. So I guess I have, there have been a couple questions that have come through on the chat, but I also have some other questions that I prepared ahead of time, and so I'm going to try to weave them together, and if others come in, I'll work on that as well. So as mentioned in your biography, you are no stranger to campus strategic planning, or I think it was academic strategic planning that you did at UCSC. I know from experience that once you start to think in terms of strategic planning, you don't easily turn your brain off. And so I imagine that you showed up at BSU and you probably had some lenses that you looked at BSU through, that were strategic oriented. So here's a real basic question along those lines. Why do we have BSU? Why does Idaho have BSU? Is it just convenient to have a university that's there for commuter students right in the midst of our greatest population center? Or is there something maybe a little more specific to it? It's not an ag and mining kind of an institution. So tell us, what is BSU's core mission?
Thank you so much for asking that. We, as a part of our strategic plan, will be asking the board to approve a new mission statement, which essentially says that we want to be a premier student success-driven university that advances our students and advances the state. And what's unique about Boise State is a couple of things. You've already mentioned, Mayor Casper, that our location in the metro area gives us access to so many industries and so many bright minds. Of course, our legislature meets here. We have so many industries that are housed here. So it gives our students access to that incredible opportunity. But each of our institutions in the state, I'm very proud of the way that the presidents have worked together. Each of our institutions in the state has a unique character. And the University of Idaho, for example, is our land-grant and ag university. And that's really a part of their unique character. What Boise State has been known for, we were founded during the Great Depression. We were designed to give folks in this part of the state an opportunity to really advance their lives and their futures and that of their families. Because what a lot of people don't realize is that when somebody gets that college degree, it doesn't just change their life, it changes the lives of everyone in their family. So we're going to have the opportunity to be here in this bustling, thriving city where all these resources are available to our students. And that's everything from the arts to technology, to industry, to government. But also from the beginning, from our founding, we were really known as innovators. And it's part of the reason that Boise State University has been nationally recognized for innovation. And we've appeared on nationwide lists. There are thousands of colleges and universities in this country, literally thousands. And Boise State has appeared in the top 50 of that list on multiple occasions. So that blue turf thinking that we're known for, that we've been known for from the very beginning, how do you launch an institution during the Great Depression? Because you understand that when everything else is shutting down, if you're preparing people for the future, it's going to drive not just those individuals forward, but the entire state forward. And having Boise State right here in town helped advance the state of Idaho at a time when other places were retracting. So Boise State is known for that innovative thinking, and that's our unique character and niche. Idaho State University is known for its health mission. We are known for that innovative thinking, and we ask ourselves the question all the time. And for me, that was a big part of the strategic opportunity. How can we do it differently in a way that's better for our students, better for the state population, and better for the thriving economy of the state? And in a lot of places, you'll find that there's a kind of ossification, a kind of settling in into certain patterns and ways of doing things. And at Boise State, we just don't have that ossified sensibility. And so as you saw in our strategic planning goals, that notion of innovation being the driver is fundamental to who we are. And that makes us really unique in the state. So we respect the mission of all the other institutions and we work collaboratively with them, but that's our special offering and our special niche for the state.
Great answer. I like being about opportunity and innovation, and I really for some reason, the story of being launched in the midst of the Depression, and seeing the campus as as you said, a place of opportunity, right when everybody really needed that's such a great identity. Can you please repeat the actual line that you're hoping will be approved? You said premier student success-driven university, and then I missed the rest.
It advances students in the state.
All right, that advances students in the state. I really do like that student-oriented approach. So conversely, you've told us a little bit about what makes BSU unique. Now, one of our listeners wants to know, how does BSU interact with the other higher ed institutions throughout the state to meet common goals?
Thank you. That's such a great question. We actually, before I came, some of you may remember this period. If you followed this closely in the news or you watched the interactions closely, our higher education institutions in the state were in a competition with each other and were pitted against each other, striving to capture students and striving to one-up each other in every area. And when the 4 new presidents came into our 4-year institutions in the state, because all of us are new within the last 3 years, we made a commitment together that we were going to work together as a system, that we were going to support each other and support our advancement and success as a system. So I can give you some specific examples of that. We've built together a plan to help improve the go-on rates for all of our students in the state of Idaho. Some of you may know that Idaho has the lowest go-on rate in the nation, which means that our citizens are underprepared for the industries of the future, are underprepared to drive our industries here in the state forward, are underprepared to be thought leaders. And it doesn't mean that people without those degrees can't do those things, because they can. But we need people with the technological skills and background. We need people with the training. We need those folks to be paired with all that great thinking we've got in the state, and to really not have to outsource our talent in the state. So we're working together as a system to ensure that more students go on to achieve higher education dreams. And what we're looking for across the state is, what's the right fit for that student? Because when we find the right fit for that student is more likely to be successful and more likely to thrive and graduate. And so what we're looking at together as a system is, how do we cooperate and collaborate? Idaho State University has the health mission, but we have a much larger faculty, and University of Idaho has a much larger research enterprise. So together, the 3 of us can work on health education across the state in a way that we can't work independently. If we are able to join together and share processes, for example, this year we made the decision that University of Idaho would lead all purchasing for all of our 4-year institutions in the state. So instead of us each having our own entire hierarchy in purchasing in each institution, we would collaborate as 4 institutions, do our purchasing together, participate in it together, and by virtue of that, actually be able to work better deals because our purchasing office will be purchasing for 4 entire institutions instead of just for one. And we're going to see better outcomes, lower staffing implications, and more efficiency as a result of that. So we're doing these things intellectually and academically working together, and we're working together materially and structurally to ensure that what we're doing for the state of Idaho is fostering the best interests of our students and the best interests of the state.
That's very interesting, actually. Thank you for going into some detail there. Do you think that the example that you share of the purchasing being done, one campus leading for all 4, is that the beginning, perhaps, of an Idaho University system rather than separate institutions that, as you mentioned earlier, have been somewhat siloed in the past? And is this coming together? Do you think will it bear more fruit that might be formal at some point in the future?
I do think so. In fact, one of the things that the board, our state board of education, had proposed before my arrival is that we begin thinking more like a system. And what we know about systems is that they are more efficient. They can be more collaborative. And so the presidents took up that charge very seriously. And that was, as I said, not just material, but also strategic and also student-based. And so I do think we'll discover more and more ways that we can work collaboratively across the system to ensure that our students are getting the best that we have to offer. One of the things, for example, that we're doing right now is collaborating with Idaho State University on public health efforts. And I'm not talking about public health in terms of the practices on our campus, but educating about public health. So we collaborated with their faculty, and our faculty worked together to think about what the best way was to drive that academic curriculum forward. So we are really attentive to the new ways that we'll keep finding to work together. And our board is very attentive to this. And one of the other functions that we've centralized recently is we centralized our audit function. So each campus had a campus audit office. And now we'll have an auditor on each campus that can develop relationships with people so that they can do the investigations and give feedback. But we'll have a central audit function that will help all the universities and colleges in the state be more uniform in their audit approach, but also be more efficient in their audit approach so that we can, for example, Lewis Clark State College, for them to hire a single auditor for a campus that small felt like an excessive outlay of expense when they probably only really need a half or a third of a person to do the audit functions on their campus. So with that centralized audit function, now we'll have a group of auditors that will be able to go out and serve wherever that service is needed, but more efficiently than we would if we were doing it alone. So I do think it's been a goal of the board, and it's been a goal of the President's Leadership Council, which is all our presidents in the state, community colleges, tech college, and all of our four-year institutions. It's been our goal as well in the President's Leadership Council to ensure that we're working together effectively to make sure that we're doing the best for our students in the state. And I do think we will keep finding those ways. And the board had an external group come in a few years back called the Huron Group. And they did an analysis of the universities in the state, and we've already been able to follow through on all their recommendations, and we'll just keep looking for more.
That is just really interesting to hear. I think there's not a single taxpayer or Idaho taxpayer who doesn't appreciate these efficiencies, but the collaboration is also welcome news. I think as you're able to collaborate on things that are completely unrelated to academics, you'll be able to develop those relationships that will continue to allow the appreciation for each other's distinctive, strengths as well. So this is really. So I'm going to switch gears a couple different times, and now's one of those times. times. We seem to live in a time when education, as a way of producing graduates who are curious thinkers, capable of reasoned and self-directed inquiry, what we used to call a liberal education, is not as valued or prized as it once was. Rather, it feels like society today seems to be looking to education as a means to an end, be it workforce education or filling the talent pipeline, or those other kinds of efforts that fuel the economy. And certainly providing workforce for a vital economy is important. That I'm not trying to put that as any sort of a lesser objective. But the needs of industry and the expanding economy sometimes are argued outweigh the needs of just pure learning. And I guess we seem at present to have a system that values jobs over degrees. And I don't know if any of that sounds familiar, but as I was, having conversations in preparation for visiting with you, that theme came up. And I'm wondering, can you maybe describe what the education philosophy that's embraced by BSU faculty and leadership is about? Is it sort of viewing this with this fulcrum here, where you have jobs on one side and pure learning on the other, or is there some more blended sort of approach?
Thank you. That's such a smart question, Mayor Casper, and it really does get at the heart of what a lot of people are thinking about right now. Excuse me. We know that nationally, states have reduced their support of higher education by about 80% over the last several years. And that cost burden has now shifted to students and their families, and that means it's a bigger investment. Now, an interesting side note on this, Kevin Satterley, the president of Idaho State University, did a very comprehensive study with his staff this year and discovered that if you adjust for inflation in the state of Idaho, the cost of education has not changed. What's changed is where that cost burden is housed. And states have different kinds of things that they have to invest in now than they did 30 years ago. But that cost burden has shifted to students and their families. So people are asking the question, will this degree be worth it? And that's part of what drives that career-focused sensibility. But what we like to say at Boise State University is we're teaching students how to both make a living and make a life. And if you're going to make a life, if you're going to be a leader, if you're going to do work and contribute, you have to be a good critical thinker. That has to be fundamental to the way that you learn. And in some ways, that's what the general education requirements are about. We're not a tech school where you're learning how to weld. We're the kind of place where you're going to learn how to be a construction engineer who's not just thinking about those welds, but also thinking about how you can do the work better, how you can do it more efficiently, how you can lead in the efforts that you're doing. And that's a product of not just your education in engineering, but your education across the academic curriculum. And so what we see and what we know is that students want to learn how to be good critical thinkers. They want to learn how to analyze the big questions and be able to make their own judgments. And we want to support that effort. And that's a big part of general education. But we also want students thinking about career. And I want to think about it not just as getting a job, but how somebody can live out their vocation. So when I look at the folks I went to school with in high school in Green River, Wyoming, a very small percentage of the folks that I went to high school with went on to get their college degree. And I knew so many talented people in my hometown. So many talented people, many of whom went to work in the trona mines like my father had, and went down so much farther below the surface than coal miners do in high-risk situations in order to do that work. But they had talents that were underdeveloped. And what we want to do is give everyone who wants that opportunity the chance to not just have a job, because you can make good money in the trona mines in Green River, Wyoming. But I know everyone I know who works in those mines lives for the weekends. They don't feel like what they're doing is a part of their contribution as human beings to the world. And we want everyone who wants that option, that opportunity, to have it and to go on and get to live a vocational life where no matter where you work, if you're working in those Trona mines, you're still able to do the kind of critical thinking and analysis when you're at the job, when you're at home with your family, when you're making decisions about your future and your life, when you're looking to how you're going to vote or how you're going to make decisions about whether to invest in buying a house. We want people to be prepared no matter what field of action they choose to work in, to not just make a living, but to make a meaningful life. And so I think our faculty are very, very conscious that we want people to be career focused, not just job market focused, but career focused. How are you building a meaningful life? And that they have all the skills and tools that they need to do that so that they're prepared for the job market, but they're also prepared to make those critical decisions. And I heard something very interesting from a colleague at another institution the other day. He said that he visited the Louvre when he was in France. He does research on contagious diseases, and he went to France to understand some of the research that was going on there. And he said that he went and walked through the Louvre, and he's a scientist. He's a microbiologist. And he walked through the Louvre and he thought to himself, students in my college are not going to understand the history and the literature and the art here if we don't ensure that they have access to that kind of education. But he said, we also want to ensure that they understand how to do personal finance, because we want fiscally responsible families that are thriving, not overextending themselves. We want people who make good investments in their future. And maybe I'll just say as a last word, one of the best investments any individual can make in his or her future is in a college education. And we sometimes have young people who look at the options before them and say, would I rather invest in this really fine pickup truck that can help me with my work wherever I'm working? Or do I want to invest in that college degree and what's going to pay me off the most in the long run? People who invest in that college degree earn more than $1 million more over the course of their lifetime than the person who only invests in the pickup truck, which means you could buy that pickup truck many, many times over by making that investment in a college degree. So we want folks to know how to make those kinds of decisions in ways that are meaningful for them, and we want them to make the right decisions for them. So one of the things the university education does when it teaches you to be a critical thinker is instead of telling you what to think, we teach you how to think so that you're making the best decisions for yourself.
Thank you. That answer was given with so much deeply felt passion. I appreciate that. I'm getting distracted by the time. There's so many questions I want to ask you, and I'm going to shift gears again, and hopefully we won't have to end on this particular question, but we do have to ask it. We know that a few weeks ago, a proposal, Senate Bill 1179, was passed by the Senate to withhold $409,000 from BSU's annual budget and instead pass that on to another institution. And I guess it was that bill, as I looked into it and actually spoke with a few senators, that they felt that it was passed partly as an expression of disapproval for some of the programs on BSU's campus. To my understanding, the bill hasn't made it to the House yet, although the legislature did start back up today. But the primary topic of legislators' concern seemed to be critical race theory. And so I guess I'm wondering, I don't believe all of our members of City Club have been following exactly what critical race theory is. I don't know if it's even possible to explain what that is in a short amount of time, but can you just explain maybe what has been your response to the legislative concern there, and tell us what BSU is going to be doing to try to walk that fine line between freedom of ideas and education and thinking, and then that very important practical aspect of being funded and being able to have the resources to offer any programs.
Thank you so much, Mayor Casper. And I don't mind answering this question. We have important work to do around the state to help people understand. There's a lot of misapprehension about what's happening at Boise State and what's happening in our programs, and a lot of distortion of the facts. And it's largely not driven by ill will. It's sometimes just driven by simple ignorance. I'll give you a specific example. I've heard over and over again in the past year that we ended our contract with Boise PD, but I'm the one who signed that contract. So I know, for example, that we in fact do have a contract with Boise PD, and I drive by our officers on campus every day. And so there's a lot of misapprehension and a lot of misinformation that has really distorted the picture of what the university does. But to ensure and to signal clearly our commitment at Boise State University to ensuring that every voice is respected, and that particularly, for example, one of the concerns that has been raised is that conservative students don't feel like they have space to speak, is we've launched a number of efforts. One of them is called Conviction and Conversation in Contested Times, and that's a series where we bring together, under the auspices of the President's Office, people from different perspectives to talk in ways that are respectful and respect the dignity of each person and their positions. And out of that initiative grew an institute that we're launching called the Institute for American Values. And the idea behind that institute is to ensure that we bring together voices from the left and the right, so that our students can see that university doesn't have a stake in what you choose as you study. We value all of these perspectives, and these perspectives are important, and they should be in dialogue, and a university campus is the place where those dialogues should take place. So this year has been a hard year for me on traveling, but I'm going to be traveling the state again this year, as I did my first summer when I came to Idaho. I care for my 92, almost 93-year-old mother. She'll be 93 in 20 days. And that made me very cautious to protect her against illness this year. But I'm really looking forward to getting back out into the state to share these wonderful projects with people, so that they can see firsthand our commitment to ensuring that all of our students have the right and the privilege of being able to pursue their own convictions, to study richly and broadly across the curriculum. And while there could be classes, I don't even know that we have any classes that teach critical race theory, but while there could be classes that have that, of course, we have our classes in economics and our classes in history and the kinds of classes that are a part of a classical education. So we'll bring all of those voices forward and let students make the decisions that are right for them.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Thank you for taking time to answer that question. We really need to wrap up, but I'm going to just ask one last question. Maybe we can go out on a really high note. Your bio tells us that you are the first in your family, first generation, to receive a college degree. I too am first generation in my family, and I know what that moment of graduation meant to me. And as you referenced earlier, it didn't just mean something to me; it meant something to my entire family. I can only imagine how it must feel to be in your position, where you can make that kind of accomplishment possible for not just a few, but for many thousands of students and their families. But in closing, I guess I would invite you to tell us along those lines, what drives your commitment to higher education? We've touched on an awful lot today, and you've had a chance to sort of express with passion some of your conviction. But what is it about education that appeals to you when you wake up in the morning? What is it that you're looking to do when it comes to taking the moment that you have, the platform that you have, and making something with it?
Thank you so much for that beautiful question. And it is a lovely way to end. For me, what I think about every single day are the people across the state, and not just young people, because we also have people who return to school, and how it can change their lives to have access to a high quality education that allows them to go out and make their mark in the world. What my vision is is that universities, and Boise State University particularly, be a place that helps people embody their dreams and make their dreams come true. And so for me, a college education almost felt like it was unreal because it seemed so far out of my reach. And it took the support of a lot of people to make that education possible for me, a lot of people working alongside me and on my behalf, and the incredible honor that I feel to be a part of a university that's changing people's lives is so profound. So I feel like I have the best job in the world, because when your job is to change people's lives so they can change the world, that's about the best job there is.
Well, thank you very much. What a fantastic answer. City Club members, we have reached the end of our time with President Tromp. I probably had 3 times the questions to ask. We do appreciate her commitment to giving data-driven answers. That was very helpful, and certainly the passion behind the things that she does. I would invite you, City Club members, to remember April 29th, when we'll have Congressman Simpson at our podium, and encourage you to be prepared then with more questions. We thank you so much for your time, and this ends another episode of City Club of Idaho Falls. Thank you very much.